Here's the story of how I went from an insecure guy who got no action from women to a confident guy who gets more dates and more experiences than I could have ever imagined. Not too long ago, I was lonely and desperate for romantic connection. In fact, I was on a 4-year dry streak. The rest of my life was in order, but my romantic life was non-existent. I could not get any dates. However, one massive decision changed everything. All of a sudden, I went from 0 options to too many options. And it wasn't through dating apps or looks maxing or making more money. It was by picking up my balls, walking over to the girl I liked, and saying hello. Eventually, after doing that a number of times, my dating life completely transformed, quicker than I expected. And now I'm seeing a beautiful girl who I met in London outside of Zara. Shout out to Zara. Now, let's briefly rewind back to March 2024 when I was proper down bad. I luckily matched with one girl on Hinge who miraculously wasn't a bot or a fake profile. We texted back and forth, we eventually went on a date, but it kind of felt like a business meeting. It didn't go that well. Then she told me that she wasn't interested anymore, and it ended. To be fair, my desperation and neediness probably turned her off. But either way, I was left heartbroken. But could you honestly blame me for being needy and thirsty? Matching with her was like finding a puddle of water in the middle of the desert. And one of the hardest parts was realizing that all my hard work with self-improvement didn't translate into dating success. I had already put years of effort into the gym to try and put some muscle on my skinny frame. I meditated, I journaled, I read books, I even made more money. None of it worked. To cope with the pain, I watched porn because it was the easiest way to satisfy my horniness. But I always felt ashamed about it, and it sucked my energy away. Then I did nofap and went celibate because it felt like the virtuous thing to do, but deep down inside, I knew this was cope. I mean, you can't give something up if you can never get it in the first place. For lack of a better phrase, I was basically an incel. I just didn't want to admit it at the time. So after the Hinge heartbreak, I tried my luck again with the dating apps after deleting them and then re-downloading them a bunch of times. I would check my phone every morning after endlessly swiping the night before, only to find 0 matches. When this happened again and again, it absolutely nuked my self-worth. So the next course of action was to go to bars and nightclubs by myself because apparently that's where all the girls were. But honestly, that method was exhausting. I was in the middle of a 3-year break from alcohol, so I was completely sober at the time. Plus, the floors were sticky, the music was too loud, and the drunk crowd around me were annoying. I'm also an introvert, so that environment wasn't built for me. After my short-lived attempt at going to bars, my last-ditch effort was to attend a singles mixer event hosted by a dating app called Thursday. Now sure, this was better than the traditional bars on a Saturday night, but it still sucked because the guy-to-girl ratio was terrible and it was still loud and crowded. At that point, it felt like I reached a dead end. Although, in reality, looking back, I was simply ignorant. I didn't know any better. I simply did what everybody else did, which was take the path of least resistance. After accepting my ignorance, I said, enough is enough, because being lonely sucked. All my friends had girlfriends and fun dating lives. In fact, my jacked flatmate who found success on the dating apps always had a new story of a new girl that he hooked up with on the weekend. I was secretly envious of him. And plus, I did not want to settle for the bare minimum. I did not want to live with any regrets. Then, one day, in the autumn of 2024, the YouTube algorithm showed me a video on daytime cold approach. It looked difficult, and I didn't think that it could work for an introverted, insecure guy like me. But I had a feeling that if I tried it, it could change my life. It's as if that fear of rejection and public humiliation was a call to action. My future self was screaming at me to take the risk. And I also asked myself, Ian, what's the alternative? Nobody else was coming to save me. This whole wait and the universe will bring it to you advice was complete bullshit. The girls I wanted would never knock on my doorstep, so I couldn't expect them to make the first move. And of course, the dating app companies did not give a fuck about me. All they cared about was user retention and milking me with premium subscription fees. And of course, the porn companies preferred if I stayed single and got addicted to their slop whilst jerking off in a sock. Now, when I came across the content, I kept on watching it, but I struggled to act on it. There was definitely an internal battle going on in here. I knew this was one of the hardest decisions of my life because my ego was on the line. The scared little boy inside me wanted to avoid rejection. And then I also thought, what if my friends and family think this is cringe? But then the man inside me said, fuck that. Fuck their approval and fuck their permission. I need to be courageous and shoot my shot because I can do whatever I want. I simply had to worry about the consequences later, and so that's what I did. I went outside on September 14th, 2024, and I did my first cold approach. When I started, I didn't really know what to expect, if I'm being completely honest. I took it day by day, week by week, hoping it would eventually work out. I sucked at first, but I eventually got better and it all clicked. I became more confident, more flirtatious, and less afraid. Then I got multiple dates a week and I got more romantic experiences than I could have ever imagined. And nowadays, I don't stress about being lonely because I know I can make shit happen on any given day. All because I took that bold leap of faith and refused to give up. So if you're still watching, I hope you take that leap too. Good luck.